internet. Shahir, you wanker, you asshole. I hate you heaps. Please die soon in pain.
Well, sure, bro. I didn't choose the Skux life. The Skux life chose me.
Yeah, and if you understood any of that, welcome to the only podcast about movies. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And I'm Shahir Dowd, representing New Zealand.
Yeah, well... Sure. And why would you be representing New Zealand? Why is that important for the film this week?
Because the film this week is a New Zealand film.
What?
Have you seen many New Zealand?
Say the name.
Well, no. Before we do that, have you seen many New Zealand films before?
Only the ones you've showed me or pointed out that, like, the third gaffer is from New Zealand in every film or some shit.
Like, okay, Peter Jackson before Lord of the Rings. Have you seen any Peter Jackson movies before Lord of the Rings?
I saw the one he got. I'm blanking.
Bad Taste.
No.
Heavenly Creatures. The Frighteners.
I've seen Frighteners. Yes. Okay. Heavenly. The Bad Taste I've seen, but the other one, the first one, the horror one.
Brain Dead.
No.
Brain Dead is the big horror one.
Oh.
The Frighteners is the Michael J. Fox one.
Yeah, which I really like Frighteners.
Yeah, it's great.
Anyway, what movie is it this week?
We are doing Hunt for the Wilderpeople.
Yay!
The new film by Taika Waititi. And the reason I mentioned this in a podcast that we did a few months ago, Batman v Superman, because I saw this while I was in New Zealand. And the reason I thought that you might be interested in this film is Taika is going to be directing the new Thor film.
Right, Thor Ragnarok.
Thor Ragnarok, which is, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest, is not of interest to me.
Why does it not interest you?
Because I thought the second Thor movie was so boring.
The second Thor movie was great, and it was the closest that I could get to a new Master of the Universe movie at the time. So I was really happy with it.
So your level here, your standard bearer here is that it's better than the Master of the Universe movie that previously came.
Actually, no. I'd say Master of the Universe, the 1980s one with Dolph Lundgren, is actually better than Thor 2.
So that's baseline here.
Yeah.
Your baseline is that...
My baseline is I enjoy fun things, and that's why I like those movies.
Steve Buja left us a review on iTunes this week, and I think I prefer his definition of what you like, which is...
Why don't you use Steve's review on iTunes to describe to people at home what this podcast is? Because we got off to kind of a rocky start. I think by the way, for people listening at home to the recording, we are doing a live Facebook thing to my personal Facebook page right now to test it out to see if this is something that we might try to do in the future. I don't know. It's going. It's
happening.
Yeah, it's happening. Chris Price is on. That's cool. I got a lot of friends from home that are on listening to this now. I'm going to stop referencing it though because it is about this movie. Read Steve's review of us on iTunes and see if it captures our essence to tell people exactly how this podcast runs.
Well, first off, thank you, Steve, for writing us a review. We appreciate that sincerely. And for those of you who don't know, Steve Buja has his own podcast called the Oscar Watch Podcast.
Yes.
Where they're reviewing all Oscar winners. So
one a week.
A big project. But Steve writes, I had always been looking for a movie podcast and was shocked that none such existed. So were we, Steve.
We were terribly shocked.
We feel your pain. Until now, but in all seriousness, the only podcast of movies balances the sublime and the ridiculous as well as any out there. This can be chalked up to its pair of hosts. Oh, I'm going to blush. Matt and Shahir, who represent pretty much two sides of the film coin. Matt is an excitable ball of energy who likes shiny objects. That's how I would describe. Instead of Matt likes fun, I would go, you like shiny things.
I mean, I just like cool shit.
Yeah. And Shahir, not a fan of fun, brings a more critical and clinical eye to things, which is not to say that the one is always this or always that. They just have great chemistry together. Plus, you're always guaranteed at least some small tangent on the MCU. I think we fulfilled that already.
We already did it. We already did it.
Lastly, I'm pretty sure Shahir went to film school. I don't think I've ever said that before.
No, you've never mentioned it.
I'm not entirely sure. Can someone please check for me? All in all, great fun podcast. Help you decide what to see in theaters. And
2 stars.
We actually have, just before that, we have one more from Ben Draco who asked us in about our
American Beauty.
Asked us to review American Beauty, which we did. So thanks again for that, Ben. And thanks for leaving us a review. This is one of my favorite podcasts. I look forward to each subsequent episode.
Aww.
I discovered the show by listening to one of the Angry Chickens patron hangout episodes
where
Matt called in.
I'm so glad.
I didn't understand what any of those words in sequence meant, by the way, so we're just going to move on. You guys do a phenomenal job, and I thoroughly enjoy the honest reviews and witty banter. Keep up the great work. But that is actually, before we move on to the review...
This is the biggest preamble we've ever had.
This is the biggest preamble we've
ever had. If people want to reach us, first of of all, how can they do it?
Okay, if you want to get in touch with us like Ben did, like Steve does, you can reach us at our Gmail account, which is onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at onlymoviepod. We have a Facebook page, which occasionally we broadcast live on right now.
Right.
Well, actually, no, this is broadcast.
No, this is on mine. So if you can find me on Facebook.
So, you know what I just told you? I lied. I do that a lot. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you. We love to, if you can, please review us on iTunes. It helps us promote ourselves a little bit more. And one of the things we're doing in promotion is...
It's a pretty big deal. So for the nerdier side of the listening audience, you might be familiar with a little tiny video game and gaming culture convention called PAX. It's PAX Prime. Now they're calling it PAX West. It was started by the Penny Arcade guys. And it's easily my favorite convention out of like the convention year, I guess you would say. Like there's Comic-Cons, there's a couple others, there's Dragon Con, etc. But PAX has always been a huge just... a joy to attend. They really kind of make it the best convention possible due to all the volunteers, etc. Blah, blah, blah. But the big news from us, I submitted a panel for us to do, and it's going to be called Getting Good, that's G-U-D, at video game movies. And that will be at PAX West this year, Friday, September 2nd, 6 p.m. in the Sphinx Theater as it stands right now. And it's going to be me, Shahir, a friend of the show, Red Charyszyn, who is Martin Scorsese's VFX editor, and also James Portnow, who was on our Civil War podcast, but more importantly does a wonderful series called Extra Credits.
No, there's nothing more important than being on a Civil War podcast. I'm sorry. I don't know who this James Portnow guy thinks he is.
Hey, he's a game designer extraordinaire and a very good man. So the four of us will be just debating sort of video game movies, how they've been, how they could get better. Have we seen a good one yet? We don't know, but we're going to be talking about it and doing a live show there. We're still in the prepping processes and planning. So even if you can't attend, you will be able to hear us, once it's done. So, yeah, that's all of the housekeeping. So, yeah, let's just jump right into, 6 minutes into the podcast. Now, Hunt for the Wilderpeople.
Hunt for the Wilderpeople. Before we get into this, I don't have a personal relationship with this film, but I am from New Zealand. It is a New Zealand film, and I've seen it twice now. Once in New Zealand at the premiere in Wellington at the Embassy Theater, which was a great experience, and then once last night at the BAM Rose Cinema in Brooklyn.
That's where I saw it today, actually.
Yeah. And so I was, for those who don't know, Hunt for the Wilderpeople is based on a Barry Crump novel. Barry Crump is a very iconic New Zealand writer.
Sure.
And it's about a young boy, Ricky Baker. If you've seen the movie, that'll make sense. If you don't, you just think I'm probably got Tourette's syndrome of some kind. But Ricky Baker is a young child who has been handed over to Child Youth Services and is taken in by a new family, Bella and Hector, played by Rui. Oh, I'm going to butcher her name here, but Rima Tiwiata and Sam Neill playing Bella and Hector.
God bless Sam Neill.
Respectively. They live in an isolated part of New Zealand, close to, and you're going to laugh, the New Zealand bush. They even make I forgot that they'd done this in the film, but they made Ricky at one point goes, "You said bush."
Yes.
But they live close to the New Zealand bush. A turn of events happened which caused Ricky and Hector to go on the run through the bush.
Yes.
And it is directed, as I said before, by Taika Waititi. Also, for people in New Zealand who might have known him as Taika Cohen, but Taika is next to Peter Jackson, probably the New Zealand filmmaker at the moment. I have met Taika once or twice, but I doubt very much that he knows me or anything like that, so I'm not going to pretend like we have a relationship or anything like that. I mean, I've been to his house and I've stood outside his door, waiting expectantly for him to say hello to me, but he never does. So I'm just saying.
For a film you've said you don't have a big personal stake in, you just gave a ton of information about. I think your first statement might be a little inaccurate.
No. I guess what I'm saying, like what I know about Taika is that I have kind of seen his career from the very beginning. He was an actor in New Zealand, sort of well-recognizable actor in a lot of commercials. He was in a fairly well-known New Zealand film called Scarface, directed by Rob Sarkis, who's a great New Zealand director as well. And then he directed a short film called Two Cars, One Night, which got nominated for an Oscar. He didn't win the Oscar, but Oprah Winfrey called his moment at the Oscars, her favorite moment of that Oscars, where they cut to and Taika Waititi for 2 Cars One Night, and he pretended to be asleep and sort of.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. Great moment. Taika is a genius comedian. He
was in this film too. He played the priest at the funeral.
Yeah,
there was a funeral in the film.
Exactly. He has made, I want to say, 4 feature films now, plus a couple of another short film as well, Tamatu, which is an excellent short film as well about set in World War II. I want to say World War II or maybe the Vietnam War. His film Boy, which is his second feature film, is the highest grossing New Zealand film of all time up until now. Where Hunt for the Wilderpeople has taken over that as the highest grossing New Zealand film of all time. And he is, as we say, about to step into the bigger Hollywood spectrum by directing Thor 3.
Listen, I'm excited for that because you were giving Thor 2 some shit, and I'm not saying it's not easily not the best Marvel Universe movie, of course, but like I still enjoy it based on a lot of things. This isn't the place to sort of defend it. What I will say though is if any of the Marvel films need a sort of a kick to get me sort of back into like I really love this character by themselves, quote, it is the Thor franchise because Thor 2 I liked, but I can totally see why people didn't. Right. So I think his sensibilities coming into the MCU I think will really help the franchise and give it a little bit more of a voice. Like I really, and again, I might be alone on this too, or I know I'm not alone, but maybe the minority. I really liked Shane Black's take on Iron Man. I thought it felt different enough and it was just sort of nice. So this is something that I've been very excited about for a while. And I've really liked, how do you pronounce his first name?
Taika.
Taika. Yeah. I really liked Taika ever since, I think the first thing I saw was What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah. And I think the reason why people are, calling upon him for a bigger film like this is that he can do comedy. Obviously, he's very funny, and his films are very funny. But What We Do in the Shadows is surprisingly action-packed, and there are a couple of set pieces in What We Do in the Shadows that are incredibly impressive.
If you haven't seen that, is that on Netflix at this point?
I don't think it's on Netflix, but it's probably on VOD. So you can get access. You should. And
so funny.
It's so funny, and it's weird that Americans find it funny because it's set in my hometown of Wellington, and there are so many jokes that are specific to growing up in Wellington.
But also there's so many jokes like werewolves, not swearwolves, which are just transcendent from anyone who speaks a remote English language. So you're not that special, Shahir.
I guess growing up not American, it's kind of great to see Americans take a part of the culture I grew up in and see it as exciting and fun and universal. It's
listen,
cool.
If there's one thing us Americans are good at, it's appropriating other people's cultures.
As we'll talk about in our next week's review.
Well, we'll get to that in a week. But this movie, so I really loved basically almost everyone in it. Sam Neill, I'll see anything Sam Neill is in.
Even Andrew Zalowski's Position?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
No, but I would.
You should watch that movie before you say what I
just really like Sam Neill. And
he's great.
And you know what it might be?
I love that movie.
I do think initially my love for Sam Neill came from sort of a childhood attachment to Jurassic Park.
Of course.
But I think he's earned beyond that from me. I think that's the reason I'll always get my butt in the seat, but his skill is what will sort of keep me there.
You know what's funny is I think Sam Neill, and in Jurassic Park is a good reference point, is I think he is like the realistic version of Indiana Jones.
Sure.
He's like the more real version of Harrison Ford. You know, like that's who his persona is, and I think that's who we see in movies today.
He was great in this film. The kid who played Ricky,
Julian Dennison,
Ricky Baker, Julian Dennison was
newcomer. I'm told he actually came from my high school. I was.
But again, no personal relationship with this film at all.
I was at my high school recently, and they were like, "Oh, Julian Dennison comes from this school," and I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
So he doesn't have any stake in this horse race. No. That is a movie. But he's great. God, I think.
So, I mean, general impressions about the movie. I'm curious because, again, I saw it in the context of being a New Zealander.
Sure.
In New Zealand, as in a New Zealand audience watching this movie just ate it up. And there was, like almost every moment we ate up.
Right.
When I watched it in Brooklyn last night, there were moments that were clearly hilarious to New Zealanders that that just completely went over.
Interesting. Yeah,
completely went over the Brooklyn audience. So I was curious as to the New Zealand versus the American reaction.
Well, one thing I'll say about that is there was only one or two jokes that didn't sort of land for me, and I was like, huh? Like, I got most of it. I got like 80 to 90% of it, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I also will appreciate a film that does that either from a cultural standpoint or just from a knowledge standpoint of like whatever their sort of joke, if it's a joke in particular, like, because it's not like a plot point is missed, it's a particular laugh. And I really like that because that gives me a chance to go back and watch it again, and hopefully the more times I see it, I'll have a chance of actually getting the joke that time. It's almost similar to like when, and this movie didn't do this, but when a comedy when it's not timed right, and like there's a great huge laugh, and you laugh through it hilariously the first time, then you miss sort of a sub joke after the fact, and then like the next time you watch it, you see it. I love that because anytime you can make a film more fun the second time to watch it, you're doing a fucking good job.
There's a really great example of that, and this isn't a spoiler, but later on in the film, there's a moment where Ricky and Hector are hiding away from the SAS, the Special Armed Services in New Zealand, and they're kind of like creeping above them. And immediately, everyone in New Zealand who was watching that shot knew what the joke was. The joke was this looks like that scene in Lord of the Rings when the Reapers are traveling.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, in New Zealand, as soon as they lay down and the things happened, everyone in New Zealand started laughing.
But I laughed at that too.
In my audience last night, like Ricky even mouths the word, "This looks like Lord of the Rings," and nobody.
I got that instantly.
And he did the ring, and nobody's laughed.
But I think that could be nerd cred, though. That's. I mean, or New Zealand cred. I mean, because I know that's a big.
I just think it's such an iconic New Zealand, not New Zealand, but an iconic moment in a New Zealand film that everyone in New Zealand just like instantly got it.
I think it was. I loved it.
Yeah. There's a huge reference later on that I think we'll get into in spoilers. But it's like I can pretty much guarantee it universally went over the head of any American because there's no way you would know this unless you lived in New Zealand.
Challenge accepted.
There's no way you'd know this unless you lived in New Zealand in the 1980s or 1990s.
Okay, well. Someone's being, no, I was going to say elitist. That's not the right word. Something uninclusive.
Isolationist, parochial.
Sure. Words. Yeah. No, I liked this movie. I will say that straight up. Any problem that I sort of have with it, which we can get into later on, is completely just the joy that this movie brought completely for me outweighs any of the points that I didn't like a little bit.
Right.
And I think this is one of those movies that comes along and it's not like, it doesn't have a huge marketing budget. It's not everywhere. It's kind of hard to see even in New York.
Yeah.
It's just like it hit all the bases I want more movies to hit.
Right.
Like, especially, and you and I go back and forth on big budget and, all that jazz. But like with some things that are coming out soon, like Ghostbusters or Suicide Squad or stuff that people are slightly worried about, we'll say, or a range of worry, whether it's, founded or not.
Yeah.
Like, I think all those films and those filmmakers, the reason why people get worried about sort of big budget things, especially like, you heard reshoots, you heard this or that and the other thing, when people are saying and not just making gross assumptions of something they haven't seen.
Right.
But it's because we haven't seen a lot of movies in mainstream culture that hit comedy, emotion, just sort of drama, and make you care about characters in small situations.
Yeah.
They're just few and far between in the mainstream culture. And I think the second you can take a big tentpole thing and like sort of latch more human elements onto it, I think that makes it better and overall something that will be more timeless. And I hate to go back to it, but I think that's one of the reasons why Avengers did so well. Yes, it's a spectacle and you see everything, but you see these gods, these crazy creatures and characters we've known forever in real human moments. My favorite moments in Ultron was with the hammer. Like at the party.
No, okay. I mean, my favorite was, and they're always around Hulk, I guess, but it's like puny human.
Right. Or puny god.
Puny god.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so I just think a lot of not enough are taking notes from smaller films like this that make you really revel in almost every character.
Yeah. And I think the reason being is that, and this has been my complaint of the Marvel movies, is that they're not trying to make one single cohesive film. They're tending to try and work within a franchise. And sometimes I think that's great, and I think the idea of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is great. I just find that more often than not, I'm not enjoying each individual film. And so I hope that Taika can bring a little bit more of a cohesive feel to the Thor universe, which I have to be perfectly honest. Thor 2 was a film that I was so bored out of my skull during.
I liked it.
So I
do think the villain was wasted. What's his name? The actor, I don't remember.
Ronan, played by
no, not that's Guardians.
Yeah, I know the actor.
He was a dark
head.
elf.
Yeah,
he played Destro in the. I'm saying like the worst roles he's had, but it doesn't matter.
Very good actor, but whose name I cannot remember at this moment.
No, and I think it's good that we're getting some new blood for this particular one as well, because I have a feeling it's going to be a dark ending. I have a feeling that Thor 3 is going to kind of mess up the universe. It's going to be the first one to actually start some shit to happen.
Let's not talk about Thor, because frankly, I don't care.
Boo! I was trying to give you time to talk shit about the MCU, and I was going to move on, but yeah, you're just being a dick about it.
Because we're here to talk about Hunt for the Wilderpeople, and I think the more we talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Touche.
The less we
Bring it back. Bring it back home. I think I already know what you think.
I mean, look,
let's get into spoilers once you're done.
Yeah, no, I had such a great time in this movie, and the film is joyously fun.
Right.
It is a joy from start to finish. Julian Dennison, who plays Ricky Baker, is just he has charisma that is palpable on screen. And what's funny is that I mean, he's a big fat kid, and they make fun of and the film makes fun of him from the get-go of
for being a fat little kid, yeah.
But there's never a kind of a mean-spiritedness to that. There's kind of like a sort of, and it might be a New Zealand thing, but it's like if you're, the first thing that happened when I moved to New Zealand, I was born in Fiji, by the way, so I moved to New Zealand when I was 10 years old. And I lived in a community where I was pretty much in an all-Indian community in Fiji. And when I moved to New Zealand, the first thing that happened is a guy who became one of my really good friends turned around to me and said, "Why don't they let Indians take corner kicks in a soccer game?" And I said, "Why?" He says, "Because they'll set up a dairy," which is the equivalent of a deli in New York. And that was like, that was my introduction to New Zealand culture, which was that like, now from the outside in, that sounds like he's making a racist joke, right?
Sure.
But on the inside, what he's trying to do is just break the ice by pointing out like the thing about me that's different.
You know what I love the best about that story? And
it's my terrible delivery of that joke.
It's a side point, is that the whole semi-racist joke, not really break the ice thing, was based around soccer, which is again another level that most Americans won't really like catch on to.
Of course not.
Well, except for now, bandwagon stuff's going on big time in soccer right now.
The biggest sport in the world except for America.
Yeah. Football.
So I think even when, this is a film where a grown man will call the little kid a wanker.
Right.
Or a bastard or want him to die. And there's not a mean-spiritedness about it. It's kind of, it's done tongue-in-cheek and kind of fun.
Some of the stuff in the beginning, well, let's get into spoilers. We'll go into the relationships.
Well, before we do that, there's a couple of things that I think could be done better. I guess my I feel though that by saying these things, it will.
Do you want to wait till we hit in the moments?
Sure. But I guess what I'm saying is that like there will be things that I will point out as negatives, but they're not really negative. They're just like little things that I was like, maybe this could have been done better. Maybe this could be done that. I know, having worked in the New Zealand film industry, how difficult it is to make a film in New Zealand, and even someone like Taika, who's been nominated for an Oscar, who's making his fourth feature film in New Zealand,
right?
I wouldn't say struggle to make this film, but it was, there's not the luxury that you get on a big tentpole film like Thor, I guess. Even those films are stress balls, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So anything that I will point out is done with respect because it is such a great film, and I genuinely think it's if Americans could go see this film, I think they will have a great time. It's a lot of fun, and it reminds me of one of my favorite filmmakers, Wes Anderson, Rushmore. It's not quite as stylized as Rushmore or Wes Anderson's early films like Bottle Rocket or Rushmore, but it has a same love for character.
Yes.
That I think Taika shares in common with Wes Anderson.
And character is king for me. So as long as a film has characters that I like or at least feel something toward,
right,
it's got huge points right up the bat.
Even if you detest them, that's
well.
Good.
I mean, well, no, but like if you're supposed to,
yeah,
sure. Okay, so we're getting into spoiler territory now. We're just going to kind of break it down from there. Unless Shahir's got one more thing.
No, I was going to say, if you haven't seen the film at this point, stop the podcast, go and watch the movie, and then come back.
That's
right. If
right.
you're watching us on Facebook Live, you're screwed.
Yeah, you're screwed. You're locked in now, and it's game over.
Nothing I can do for you.
Okay, so the film starts, like we said, with Ricky being delivered to this family by child services, and the actress who plays the child services lady,
Rachel House.
She was great.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Super fun.
Yeah, she's a stalwart of New Zealand television.
Gotcha.
Her and the cop, Oscar Kitely, are well-known television personalities.
Okay, good. And, the beginning is, rough. To say the least, Ricky kind of runs away. There's a great moment in the beginning when they're first being introduced, like they pulled up in a cop car and dropped him off. And while the cops are talking to the family, mostly the mother, Ricky walks around the farm and then just gets right back in the cop car, like as if he didn't have to stay.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. That sort of set the tone of what this kid's going to be like. And I even really appreciated, like later on when he's, starting to, run away, but then like the relationship that develops between Ricky and what's the mother's character's name? Bella is really beautiful and sweet and not at all forced. I've definitely seen situations where there's like a foster child in a movie that feels like forced, like the relationship just doesn't feel real to me.
There's something I found it genuinely lovely. Like there's something just genuinely pleasant about that relationship. And it felt like it was kind of like Ricky was just being treated as an equal for the first time.
Right, because in the beginning of the film, it talks about even the child services cop was like, he's done this, that, and the other thing. Like they list the bad things in a funny way, and you see examples of him
spitting, burning stuff,
breaking stuff, stealing stuff,
setting stuff on fire.
Yeah, and graffiti, and then it's just a dick on a wall. But so he's like a trouble kid.
Yeah.
And now he's being treated as an equal by this very lovely woman. Now, Sam Neill's character, the husband, doesn't give a fuck. In fact, he seems like he's only cool with it because the wife wants it, and it seems like they can't have kids. So it's like, he'll go along with it. But she requests that that Ricky calls them auntie and uncle.
Yeah.
And Sam Neill's like, don't call me uncle. Like, this is no.
He's just playing like a gruff who is like not really interested.
But she does a bunch of really nice stuff for him. She teaches him how to like work on the farm and hunt and use a gun and skin an animal and all that stuff.
When she said the hot toddy, did you know what that meant?
A hot toddy is it's a beverage, isn't it?
No, it was did you see the red
I was gonna ask you, what the fuck is that bag?
You don't know what that is?
Side note, here we go. So there's this thing, he's like,
so great.
She's like, I can get you a hot toddy if you want or whatever. And then
it's in your bed.
It's in your bed. And I didn't quite understand that because but it's just so I can describe it to people. It just looks almost like a colostomy bag, but thicker and red. And I don't know what it is. And I figured it was a New Zealand thing.
The people who are listening in from New Zealand, you will. It's just this. So New Zealand winters get very, very cold.
Okay,
and our houses are insulated now. But this happened to me as well when I first came to New Zealand from Fiji. Like I came from a Pacific island to New Zealand winter, and it was freezing. And so one of the things that you have in New Zealand is two things, depending on where you live. You can either have an electric blanket. Do you guys have those?
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
I've had an electric blanket.
Okay, yeah. So you have an electric blanket. Of course, there's some problems with fires and that sort of thing with electric blankets. And then the other is a hot toddy, which is basically an insulated bag that you fill with hot water.
Sure.
And you can just sleep with it. And it's kind of or you leave it in the bed before you get into bed, and it keeps the bed warm. So that when you get into bed, it's a nice,
warm,
heated bed.
No, I figured it was that.
It's a thing that mothers do for their kids.
Okay.
To not just because you want to keep warm, but because you love them.
Sure.
It's like you're giving them a hug before bed.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
So the fact that she does that and then does it all the time is kind of, it's, I don't know if it's a specific New Zealand thing. I think Australia has hot toddies as well.
I'm sure. Yeah. And maybe I'm just out of the loop on this, but I had never experienced that before. I guess it's because I've never experienced love, Shahir.
No, you haven't. Yeah.
Not from a parental. No, my parents are wonderful.
Yeah.
But And I think back to the equals thing, she lets him run away and he comes back and he's like, whatever. And he's trying to get along with the family and they're kind of having some mini breakthroughs and it's going really well. And then the first major sort of twist of the film hits. And after, they also get him a present, a dog. Tupac. He names his dog Tupac.
Yeah.
And Sam Neill has a dog too, Rez.
Zag. You should get another dog and call him Zig.
Yeah, Zig. Yeah. He comes back from one of his adventures or running aways or something, and turns out that Bella has died.
Spoiler
alert. Now, side note, movie making and advertising side note. This trailer did what more trailers should do. Did you watch the trailer before you saw it? No, because you don't do that.
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, so the trailer... The whole premise of this movie is Sam Neill and Ricky are in the woods and they're running from the law. And you don't really quite know why, but they don't a lot of movies I feel like would set this whole thing up to get you to understand what's happening in the trailer. Like they'd show the death in a trailer, just because they'd fucking ruin it.
Well, because they want to give you away the first act.
Right. And this didn't do it. I still knew exactly what I was getting. The advertising was correct and on point. And I did not realize that she was going to die. They kind of show Sam Neill get hurt in the forest, and that's why you think they have to stay there.
Yeah.
And so when she passed away suddenly, I was very shocked and sad because A, I didn't know it was coming, and B, she was just a sweet character.
Isn't that amazing when you don't know something's coming, how much more powerful it can be?
Of course, and that's why
I don't watch trailers anymore.
Listen, I love trailers, but I just think people just need to be a little more careful and not as stupid and don't pull a fucking Terminator 2 and reveal your fucking 1/3 plot twist.
There's a trailer online for a movie coming out called American Honey, which is a movie I really do want to see. But I stopped within 30 seconds of it because it started giving away plot points of the movie. And I was like, it would be so powerful to have those moments happen in the movie without me realizing they were coming.
Sure.
And I think you have to be really careful. It's like even giving away shots where a big moment happens, because what happens is, when I've seen in a trailer a shot where something is about to happen, it kind of ruins that scene for me.
And if you do it, you have to do it aptly. Like even Lobster, I saw the trailer for Lobster before this movie again, and something I noticed was, again, spoilers for Lobster. If you haven't seen Lobster, just jump ahead a minute. But the fact that she becomes blinded, right? There's shots of them walking, and he's leading her in Lobster.
They have that in the trailer?
But it just looks like she has sunglasses on, but anyone who really... And if they're quick shots, that's the most I feel like you could do that, because if you weren't looking for it, you probably wouldn't get it. But if I was watching that trailer figure things out, I'd be like, oh, something bad happens to her eyes. So again, I just think this trailer was apt and it did exactly what a trailer should do while not falling into the pitfalls of most trailers these days.
Right. I still at this point have not seen the trailer.
It's good. It's fun. It's fun. It got me excited to see the movie because I told
you about it and you were like,
right, because I never know what to think when you suggest something. It could be wonderful. Although, to be honest, most every film I think that you've suggested to me, I've enjoyed for the most part. I'm trying to think of one that I really had a strong ugh.
I think everything I've given you has at least been I have never given you anything that's outright bad. It's even if you don't like it, I think you see why I might have chosen.
Sure,
it.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
See, we agreed. So anyway, back to the plot of this film. So Protective Services is going to come back now because the mother's dead. She's the one that was sort of heading up the whole thing, and
change of circumstances.
Yeah, and then Sam Neill's like, "Yep, you're going to go back. Sorry." And so he runs away. Ricky runs away before Child Services can come. He takes the hot toddy into the woods and puts it over the fire and melts it, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how to survive. He's out there with Tupac.
Yeah.
And finally, Sam Neill comes and finds him. And he's going to bring him back, whatever. But they get into an altercation, the screaming match, and he lunges at him, and Sam Neill twists or he fractures his ankle. Mm-hmm. And now, important note about Sam Neill, he's a bushman. He's sort of a person that's lived off the grid on and off in his life, and his wife was sort of the farmer, so he moved in with her, and that's sort of why he knows how to survive in the New Zealand bush.
It's also, there's a particular culture of, and I think Barry Crump speaks to this as well, of people who prefer to be in the bush,
right?
Because it's not just survivalist or anything like that. It's just this is a life I can understand, and it's simpler. the New Zealand bushland can be very, very harsh, and it's very, there's a lot of cases of tourists coming to New Zealand and dying out in in the bush. So it can be very.
Is that because of animals not being prepared?
I think not being prepared, like New Zealand, but the one thing I love about the New Zealand bush, boy, I love saying that in an American podcast as much as I possibly can, is that
that sweet New Zealand bush.
When we were growing up in, we called it primary school, which I think is your equivalent of grade school here. We lived, our primary school was right off the back of one of the New Zealand's national parks, Belmont Regional Park. So we would actually spend.
How big was that park?
It would be.
What did they use for a unit of measure in this? It was like
the metric system.
No, I know. Yeah. No, I meant fucking. They called like how many whatevers of land was back there. They
hectares.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know what the fuck that was.
I don't know how big Belmont
Is that
Regional
like an acre, but like the metric system's version of an acre?
I guess so.
I graduated college.
And I apparently didn't.
Well, no, you went to film school.
I went to film school, yeah. We didn't study units of measurement there, except for like feet to...
Right,
yeah,
of course.
So the Belmont Regional Park is enormous. It would be the size of Brooklyn, maybe. And the thing is, we would spend our lunchtimes back there. And in fact, we would have camping trips out there all the time. And it's unlike Australia, there aren't animals trying to kill you at every second?
Well, that was my question. So in this movie, they do run into some wildlife, but like I was like, man, this should have been more deadly as far as nature animals are concerned.
Correct me if I'm wrong, New Zealand, but there are not many poisonous insects or creatures in New Zealand that will kill you. They're not. I mean, wild boars are something. I don't think a wild boar the size of the one that's in this movie is very often seen.
Sure.
But then most New Zealanders who go that deep into the bush, there's that word again, it's me who's calling it out more than anything.
I realize that. I'm glad you said it so I didn't have to.
Are usually prepared for that. I guess the main issues in New Zealand are exposure. So like being exposed.
The elements.
Yeah, being exposed to the elements. And it's something that I think Sam Neill's even talks about in the film, which is that Hector talks about is the main reason people die in New Zealand is they get slightly delirious and start stripping off all their clothes because they think
it slows them down.
Yeah, they think it slows them down.
People that die in the bush are found naked.
Yeah. So, it's something that's integral to New Zealand culture.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously New Zealand has metropolitan cities like Auckland, Wellington,
Lies.
Yeah, but I think it's something kind of ingrained in our bones in our DNA at some point. Now, and I say that as a person who immigrated to New Zealand as a little kid, but I still feel like when I go home, I take a stroll through Belmont Regional Park, one of the walks there. I do feel kind of like, I'm home.
It's the same way, and I there's not from a like national level, I think, but New Hampshire, where I am from, is sort of very similar when it comes to the woods and parks.
I think
and
you
things.
said that when we watched The Witch as well, right?
Yeah, because like I grew up in the woods. Like, not saying my.
Were you abandoned as a baby in a basket?
I was raised by wolves.
You're a baby in a basket. A bastard in a basket. What movie?
Warcraft had a baby in a basket.
There will be blood. Nick Parker, if he's listening in, he walks around saying that all the time.
From the Warcraft podcast. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
But like, it's just like when I'm back in, because I used to just hang out in the woods with friends, like about 2 miles out from like civilization before it like got a lot. My neighborhood's become more rural. Or more developed, I guess.
Okay.
Sorry.
Very rarely do they get more rural.
I know. We just got up and left.
Yeah.
And it's just like a calming feeling, like when I go back to like the sort of places where we used to congregate as kids, like it's just nice. Like, so there's something to that, I think, from wherever you're from, if you're not from a major city. But I guess city people would have the same thing, feeling that same level of comfort, like if you're from New York.
Like I said, yeah, I have that now that I live in New York. And I also have that when I watch What We Do in the Shadows, which was like, it's all set in the city that I grew up in.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a comfort level to like going
I love
back
how
there.
Yours are like things that like in your town, like, oh yeah, like these movies, I've seen it, whatever. Mine, the only movie we've done that's from New Hampshire is The Witch. And I'm like, yeah, I can relate to this.
There's something about your childhood that A, I don't want to know, and B, you shouldn't tell me.
I live deliciously, Shahir.
Ooh, good deep cut.
So Sam Neill fractures his leg, and he's like, well, we got to stay here for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious, but not really because, he can't walk out of there. And Ricky's not carrying him.
Yeah.
So he's stuck. And it's at first you're like, well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You have to stay there for weeks. But he's like, no, I'm just going to wait till my ankle heals.
That and the funny thing is that couple of weeks could have been a movie unto itself.
Sure.
You know, like just them kind of like living life. And it reminds me of the film we did 2 weeks ago, Swiss Army Man, where, you know, like he starts
That was
building,
a week ago.
No, it was 2 weeks ago. We did American Beauty last week. Oh, well, yeah, you're right.
American Beauty was a bonus episode.
We do that now.
Yeah, in the middle of the week. Normally released Wednesday or Thursdays, by the way.
So, you know, in Swiss Army Man, you know, the main character lived out in this cave for a little while, and he saw this life being built up. And there was a strange shot in the middle. You know, the 2 weeks out in the you know, while Sam Neill is healing his ankle, kind of just goes by as a quick montage.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, there's like, as they're leaving, you see a bike like that's been made out of like twigs and stuff, twigs and a couple of like round wheels, and I was like, when did that get there? Like, when did they have time to make?
Ricky was making things, and maybe that was an edit decision, like not showing sort of that, because at one point Ricky has leaves and twigs around his head, and he's like, hey, you want to listen to my Walkman? And he's like,
and he's
no.
singing a Dave Dobbin song, which is great.
I don't know who that is.
Dave Dobbin's an iconic New Zealand singer songwriter.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, but meanwhile, while this is going on and he's healing in the woods and they're just living out in bush life, #bush life, the rest of the world basically starts to think that Sam Neill, because you find out a little bit later, he was actually in prison. For a little bit.
For manslaughter.
They think that he went crazy after his wife died and stole Ricky and just went into the wilderness.
Yeah.
So everyone is thinking like, oh no, this psycho has this kid. To the point where even like when they're on their way back, they stop at I don't know what those are called in New Zealand, but like a hiker house.
A hut.
It's just called a hut.
Yeah, and it's funny because I used to live in a town called Lower Hutt.
Yep.
And there's another town, a corresponding city called Upper Hutt. Shout out to Upper Hutt.
There's also one near me called Pizza Hut. Zing!
I watched Spaceballs the other week with what was the
Pizza
other?
the Hut.
Yeah, Pizza the Hut.
You were going to say Jabba the Hut.
And I was,
no, that's not in there.
And I screwed that up.
Yeah. See, I'm glad you did that because my joke was bad, but then your fucking up of a worse joke kind of made mine okay.
But see, there's an endearing quality to me fucking up. That's kind of my shtick, is that I do things badly, but it's endearing. Write to us at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com.
Tell us how endearing Shahir is.
Yeah.
How endearing Shahiring is.
But I always used to get confused when they say we're going to the hut, which usually means going to Lower Hutt or Upper Hutt. And I've stayed, there's a hut, there's a big bike ride called the Big Coast, which we did when I was younger. And we would stay at this thing called Bernie's Hut, a place called Bernie's Hut.
Wait, did you spend a weekend there?
I did.
You had a weekend at Bernie's.
I'm pretty sure it was Bernie's Hut, and you're gonna love this.
Oh, was there a body?
Bernie is buried outside where you camp.
Yes. Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah. So huts are common, like when you're going far into the bush. They're either set up by
the state or.
Yeah, and I
not
forget the organization. I was going to say NIWA, but
my question was who was stockpiling, because they'd go to these huts throughout the movie and like sort
it's kind of like
stuff.
A communal system.
That's what I figured. Yeah, like a lot like Steve Buscemi could probably even say it because he's hiked the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Northwest Trail. I think they have certain pieces like that around. Like,
and then like campers will come in and they'll restock it themselves, or there'll be a ranger who'll come in and stock it up as well. So it's kind of a communal place. It's great. Usually you have to book them. So there is a system for them, but maybe like really far into the bush, there are old ones that nobody even knows about.
So the one that they kind of stumbled into, there were people there, or they came back as they were there, but there'd been posters put up of like these two people are wanted. Yeah. And these three hunters who are recurring characters throughout the film come back and they think they're going to rescue Ricky.
Yeah.
But they're kind of bumbly and stupid. But Ricky, the way he describes like what's been happening, he basically double entendres all over it and makes Sam Neill's character seem like he's a molester and a pervert.
A molesterer.
Yeah, a molesterer. And then they try to take him away. He doesn't want to. He rescues. Basically, Sam Neill starts to fight them, starts losing.
And this is when shit gets real, yo.
Yeah. Ricky pulls the gun on the guys and then they escape.
I actually did that wrong. It was shit just got real.
Yeah, shit just got real, which is a reoccurring joke as they bond throughout the movie. Sam Neill says it the second time they run into the people. It's very cute. So
the three hikers are played by, like, Cohen Holloway, who plays one of them, is a friend of a friend. He's been in a couple of Taika's films, and he's fantastic.
Again, no personal stake in this movie. Shahir Daud.
Yeah,
that was a quote. That was a quote from before.
Cohen Holloway is just a fantastic actor. I hope
What up, Cohen?
He's also in the Jane Campion TV show.
Wait, which of the three was he?
He was the main guy with the mustache.
Oh, nice.
He's also in Jane Campion's show.
This is riveting. Riveting stuff.
Riveting television. Top of the Lake. And he's terrific. Also, Stan Walker is one of the other ones who I don't know, but my impression is he might have won some New Zealand Idol competition or something like that, so he's a New Zealand musician.
Wait, is there someone in this movie you don't personally have a relationship with?
No, I don't know these people. Apart from Cohen Holloway, who I think is just terrific. And I hope he gets a big role in Thor or something like that and eventually becomes a big star at some point. So I love those three bumbling characters because they're reoccurring characters.
And they're always stealing the bolts from their rifles when they run into them.
And the child, youth, and family services woman, Paula, comes back to, like this. Oh no, this is where Ricky has to go out on his own. Right, Ricky has to basically because they find a ranger inside the hut. Oh, inside the next
different
hut.
one. Yeah, so it's the next hut. They basically get away from the three hunters. They go to the next hut after some more bonding and funny stuff happens. Yeah, and they find a ranger in there that's basically dying. You don't really know why.
I think he's having a diabetic shock.
He is, but you don't know it at the time. Yeah. And so they send Ricky to go get help. So then Sam Neill has to stay there. Ricky goes out, and as he's going, it's like a 2-hour walk, but he runs into a girl on a horse that he instantly has movie fall in love with moments. And they go back. This is a funny moment, too. They go back to her house. She feeds him a sausage, and her dad comes home and just doesn't give a shit about it, but he really, because Ricky's now famous, so he wants to get a selfie with Ricky, and he takes like 30 selfies.
Could I get a selfie, bro?
Yeah.
It's not a selfie if you take it, dick.
Yeah. And they radio for help from there or whatever, and then what happens is Ricky oversleeps when he stays there the night, and he wanted to go back and warn his uncle that the police were coming, but he missed it. When he gets there, they're already there helping the ranger out, etc. But now Sam Neill is gone, so now Ricky and Tupac, of course, are on their own.
Yeah.
And
the police are now much more involved because the helicopters arrive. They have an investigator from the police now who's going to use a stingray. A stingray,
which is a device that basically lets cell phones latch on.
I loved Paula's line. That's some real Five Eyes shit. Which New Zealand was embroiled in the Edward Snowden debacle by being part of what was known as the Five Eyes of espionage.
Ooh.
And it's kind of an in joke about New Zealand's ineptitude. Well, I guess somewhat ineptitude in being a spying agency, but it's an in joke that I thought was kind of funny.
I did not get that one, so all right. So then it just sort of leads into they eventually fight each other again, but something I'll talk about. We've been praising this movie over and over and over again. I'm going to say something I didn't like.
Ooh.
Not particularly at this moment, but just sort of overall. And again, it's a stylistic choice, and I will always appreciate people trying a thing, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. Was during some of the montages, particularly when characters were alone, they did this sort of long either spinning or panning shot
where you would see them in
different times, like going, like it would be Ricky, if it's moving to the left, you'd see him over here, but before it finishes moving, he's over here walking a different direction. It was neat, and I liked it. I liked it one time, and then the second time I was like, oh, this is going to be a reoccurring thing. And then they did 3 or 4 more times, and then there was only one that I thought was really justified, was when everyone was hunting for Ricky, and it showed Ricky in different spots, and then it went back to the same spots with different people looking for Ricky there. If they had just done that once, I would have really enjoyed it.
I didn't mind that technique. I can see it does sort of stand out a little bit.
It cheapened it for me.
Yeah,
it just slightly. I mean, again, it's not a fucking deal breaker.
No, it's not a deal breaker. It doesn't quite feel organic to the way the rest of the film is structured out.
Right.
But in the same vein, there's another thing that I kind of, again, it's something I just want to call out because that's what we do. But it didn't it's not a deal breaker for me. But the one thing that kind of did I was like, oh, I wish this could have been done a little bit either better or more interesting
Right.
was the drone shots of New Zealand, the kind of panoramas of the bush, which are beautiful. Don't get me wrong. They're beautifully done. They're beautiful. They look stunning.
Sure.
And they give you a sense of the world.
Right.
But at the same time, I kind of, by the fifth time that they did it, I was kind of like, I wish we could do something different with these. Like what it felt like to me was that they had a day of drone shooting and they kind of just interspersed it within, throughout the film.
Yep.
Another, there's a film, Lars von Trier film, Breaking the Waves, which has these like beautiful time lapses in between scenes, and they're sort of designed to really punctuate the beginning and end of a scene.
Sure.
Which I think is a kind of an example of where that sort of technique could be done more interestingly. It felt, what it is that kind of aerial photography, which we've seen in Lord of the Rings, to kind of give a sense of the world stuff, feels generic, whereas the film doesn't feel generic. So it's kind of like it lessens the
I can see
what's
that.
great about the film, So that's, it's a slight niggle.
Yeah.
There's a third point.
A slight what?
A slight niggle.
What is that?
Like a niggle, like a something wobbly.
Oh, is that a New Zealand thing too?
It might be a New Zealand thing.
I
It
don't
might
know
just
what
be
you're
a
talking
word
about.
that I've just made up.
Okay.
But the other one was when they used Nina Simone's Cinnamon in the middle for a montage.
Mhm.
I was kind of like, oh, I wish they just stuck with the New Zealand specifically scored. The person who did one of the people that did the soundtrack is Luca Buda, who's from the Phoenix Foundation, great New Zealand band. And it was like
No ties.
No ties to me. I liked how specific that material was to the film. And when they dropped in Nina Simone's Cinnamon, I kind of felt like
Here's the thing.
music montage.
I liked all the music in this movie, and I appreciated that a lot of it was New Zealand music, but I also think that like part of Ricky's character, he named his dog Tupac for Christ's sake. Like,
but there was no rap montage. No hip hop montage.
But what I'm saying is like his character was sort of a young kid that appropriates. Thank you. Like American culture a little bit, but like it will, or maybe even more so. I don't know. Just he had other influences.
Sure.
So I think that's fine to sprinkle in some of the music from other places because it was appropriate for the character.
No, I could see it from that point of view. I just felt like the movie did such a good job at the beginning setting up this sort of unusual orchestral kind of feel.
I got you.
And then they would do things like the mother sings this song, Ricky Baker, now it's your birthday, yada, and she's singing the song. And then later in the film, there's like a
callback,
a big score, a big orchestral version of that song. And I'm like, that's kind of cool where they're using the music to tell story. And so when they throw it again, not a big deal breaker.
No,
the use of
nothing we're
Cinnamon
saying is breaking it.
Yeah, the use of Cinnamon is entirely appropriate, and is it's a great song to cut to. But the thing that it reminds me of is the Thomas Crown Affair, which used that film, which used that song so well. And maybe I'm one of 100 people that would notice that.
So as the film moves on, the first sad moment happens. Second sad moment really, because the death of the mother. They run into a giant boar.
Yeah,
and basically the dogs that they or travel with ran at the boar and get one zigzag gets marred.
Yeah.
And they finally take down the boar. Ricky saves Uncle with a very good shot.
Great headshot.
And they set up, and here's the other thing too. Like that's the sort of thing that might bug me in a movie, that he actually takes down the boar that way.
But they set it up.
He's also been trained, and he was a crack shot from the beginning. Like they set up his ability to do this. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that from just a sort of character development standpoint.
There's one point at the end that I'll talk about. It just remind me in the same vein of what you just said.
So, and it sucks because they have to put down Zag because he's not going to make it, and that sort of starts a rift between Uncle, I think. And
no, it actually brings them closer together.
It? Oh, that's right. Sorry, I keep because it kind of fluctuates throughout the thing, but it turns out that like Ricky even took Bella's ashes with him because she said that she wanted to go back to a place that sort of was a specific pond.
Now I'm gonna butcher the name of it, but I think it was Maku Tikapu.
Go with what
I'm not
going
to say it, but it's the land. It's the ocean where the sky meets the water, or something like that.
Yeah.
Even Ricky butchers it in the film. But then even Sam Neill says that she wasn't from there. She wasn't from any place. She just wanted a family, and that's why she told you that story. And it's kind of touching that Ricky brings the ashes. And now the ashes are spread amongst a waterfall.
Yep, and it's just nice because like you really see them like really, really, really bond throughout this, and like I think Sam Neill's still sort of entertaining this and still run. Well, he's running now from the police because he doesn't quite know what to do because they're going to bring him back in jail if they catch him. Like no one's going to believe him.
Yeah, and I love like what are we going to do now? We're going to run. They run for like one frame. They're like, yeah, maybe we don't need
just
to run.
walk fast.
Walk fast. Yeah, good.
So eventually they run into Psychopath Sam.
Psychopath Sam.
Which I
played by
enjoyed.
Rhys Darby.
Who is Rhys Darby?
Did you watch Flight of the Conchords?
Do you have a personal relationship with this New Zealand actor?
No, but do you watch Flight of the Conchords?
I have, yeah.
He plays the manager.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he did look familiar.
And he was in, I believe he was in Jim Carrey's The Yes Man.
Okay.
He's great.
So they run into him. He puts them up for the night. He's basically like a conspiracy nut that they make them wear like metal hats and collars on their head.
Have you heard of the Legion of Psycho Sam? No. Well, my name's Sam.
And due to him they have some funny adventures sort of there, but due to him making him get 4 bars on Ricky's cell phone, gets latched onto by that Five Eye
by the Stingray. Yeah. Again, all set up. It's like none of this comes out of left field because it's all like the whole world is all set up really well.
So now, after they've been staying with Psycho Sam, who has a beautiful suit made of a bush.
Yeah. Is he Bush?
Is he Bush? Is he man?
Is he Bushman?
Bushman. The cops are alerted due to that, and they all storm his place. Psycho Sam gives them a truck, and they have their final sort of getaway.
Not just any truck. So this is the thing that I was alluding to earlier, where it was like, this is such a specific New Zealand joke.
Okay.
The truck is called Crumpy, and the book that this film is based on is written by Barry Crump. Barry Crump was a writer in New Zealand, and in New Zealand, Barry Crump also became a sort of an icon, and he was featured in this long-running range of New Zealand commercials for Toyota, where he would drive this. It was him and Scotty, and they would drive this. Scotty would say, "Oh, I've got the new Hilux, mate. You want to give it a shot?" And Barry would jump in and take it through the worst bush, and just as he does, and he says, "Watch it. You better hold on, mate. It's going to get a bit bumpy up here." Those are all like lines directly lifted from this and they're all like they even shot the same way. So
that's cool.
In New Zealand, that was like brought the house down to have that. And there was another moment earlier actually with where Ricky watches a Cadbury Flake ad. Do you guys have Flake in America?
No.
It's a chocolate bar, and they used to have this really elaborate commercial for it where it was like, only the crunchiest, flakiest chocolate tastes like chocolate never tasted before. Only the crumbliest, flakiest chocolate.
Okay, good. I'm back. Sorry, we had a little technical glitch, and I just wanted Shahir to sing while he did it. It's great.
So, if anyone's seen, if for Americans, look up Barry Crump. For Americans that have seen Hunt for the Wilderpeople and didn't know what the references were,
right?
Look up Barry Crump Toyota Hilux commercials. And then look up Flake 80s commercials from New Zealand, and you'll get those references as well.
Well, I liked it. They kept saying the truck was indestructible
because the whole
is that a whole thing too?
Yeah, and in the advertising campaign, the trucks were indestructible.
Got you. Yeah. Okay, so they go on this final thing, and now they have a full contingent of like the police
Army.
That then they drive onto a military base, and then the army's on the other side, and they have to pull around and they try to get away. There's something again minor thing that I didn't like. The army just sort of disappeared. No, the army didn't go after them after breaking onto an army base, which I thought was weird.
Yeah, the geography is kind of weird. I think it feels like it was shot in the Desert Road area in Oakuni, which is an area.
Oh, of course, yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, that's where the military base.
Gotcha. Anyway, and then there's a moment where Ricky kind of
Thelma and Louise's it.
Yeah, that was a little bit weird, kind of for no reason, but I guess there was nowhere else to go, so he was just like, I'm gonna go down in a blaze of glory because we're gangsters.
Yeah.
And it was a very little kid thing to do. The more I'm thinking about it, it makes sense for the character. And they crash, flip the truck, they both crawl out, and Sam Neill's just like, well, there's nowhere to go, like we're done, like this, we try, whatever, this is it. And then Ricky is like, no, like we're not, this can't be it. And he pulls a gun on Sam Neill as he's trying to give himself up.
I mean, the gist there is that Ricky wants this adventure to last forever,
right?
And Sam Neill knows that the jig is up,
realizes that it can't.
Yeah.
And then one of the hunters is also with the cops, and he's about to. This was kind of a weird moment. He tries to shoot Sam Neill, but then the police officer tackles him.
Yeah, Oscar Kitely.
And the gunshot startles Ricky, who then shoots Sam Neill in the butt.
Yeah.
And then that's sort of it. Ricky gets taken away. Sam Neill goes to jail.
I love how Paula's like, you have the right to an attorney. Anything you say or do can and will be used against you in the court of law. And the cop comes.
That's an American thing.
Yeah, that's not really something we say.
Yeah.
Plus, you're not a police officer. It's more of an American thing.
Yeah. And then it shows the court hearings, and they're going through stuff, and then it's kind of a funny montage because, like, even the only thing that she says is like, and then I said that I was the Terminator and he was Sarah Connor.
Do you think that was probably the best joke in the film?
Not the best one. It was good. I liked it a lot.
You're more like Sarah Connor from the first film before she could do chin-ups.
Yeah. That was one that was in the trailer, though, so maybe it didn't hit me as hard.
Right.
So then the movie also, we kind of neglected this, is also broken up into cool little fun chapters. And actually, I really like that in visual storytelling. A lot of times when it fits a story, the new Uncharted, and actually a lot of the Uncharted games, but they have chapter names which give you like just a hint enough of what's coming where it intrigues you, but doesn't ruin it.
I think Quentin Tarantino in Django and Inglourious Basterds
does that too.
Even in The Hateful Eight, I think uses chapter markers.
So like, I like it because it piques your interest and gives you a teaser and lets your brain be like, oh, I think I know what's going to happen, but then sometimes it can subvert it.
Yeah, I'm sort of 50-50 on it.
Sure.
Like sometimes I think it's done well, sometimes I'm like,
I liked it here.
It feels like an imposition on the film.
And I even liked it because the end, the really heartfelt ending, was just called Epilogue.
Yeah.
And it's when Sam Neill, a year later, gets out of prison, sees Ricky. Ricky is now adopted by the family who he took the selfie with.
Yeah.
And they have just a great moment on
they have a great moment. And Sam Neill does a haiku for Ricky, which was that me and this little fat kid went on the run. It was the best time ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, and the thing that I wanted to mention was when you were talking about how Ricky was a crack shot at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
And it was set up so that when he did, when he shot the boar, point blank in the head, it really worked. It was the same with the haiku. The haiku is something that's established all the way throughout the film.
It was the way Ricky, it was taught to deal with his feelings in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And so when it comes back at the end, it's like simple, elegant storytelling. That set it up and pay it off.
Yeah, and it was great. Yeah. And it's those moments that make films and characters emotionally viable. I shed a tear when this was happening at a happy moment, and that's super rare for me.
Wow.
It was just heartwarming because now Sam Neill, he has another place to live. He's going to live with the family. He's going to help on the farm. I don't know. It sounds sort of lame when I say it, but the way the film sets it up, it's fucking awesome. And this movie takes you on a ride that's hilarious and heartwarming and terrifying and sad, and it just goes the right amounts of everything. And I really it doesn't happen a lot. And normally someone drops the ball somewhere in the story process for me, or something doesn't hit right because of this, that, or the other thing. But when the only complaints I can really put to a film are like, oh, I didn't like the way a montage was done, or something else. I was like, yeah, the CG animals were all right. Yeah. But who gives a shit if the movie makes you feel things?
I guess the only argument you could, and I'm not making this argument. I just think, maybe if someone's not into this film, the reason could be is that it generally feels kind of, you could say it feels slight. Like it's a small film, but I think the stakes are actually kind of there, and I care enough about.
They're emotionally set up for the stakes to matter. Small things mean big things.
Exactly. And then it is kind of wrapped up in a nice bubble. It's an unabashedly heartwarming film. It's and I think that's really hard to do because that kind of thing can feel disingenuous. But they do it, Taika does such a good job of making it feel sincere. He really does believe that these two characters should walk off into the sunset together. And when someone executes it well, and aims for that and hits it,
sure,
you can't argue with that.
Agreed. So I think we can safely say that we both say this movie is worth your time and money.
Oh, absolutely.
If you haven't picked that up over the last hour.
It's hard to see because it's in New York, it played, I think it's playing at the Angelica, which is a theater.
The Angelica?
And Angelica, sure, tomatoes. Which is, I hate to say it because they play really good movies, but it's a really uncomfortable theater.
Well, it's because you hear the subway 9,000 times.
Yeah,
you're 3 leagues under the sea.
And I think it's one of those theaters that still has like poles.
See it at the BAM. The BAM Rose is great.
The BAM Rose is a very nice theater, but it's the only other theater in New York. I'm sure it's playing in other cities.
Yeah,
as well,
and I do feel like this is going to be a film that has a big life on demand if it hits Netflix or even Blu-ray or physical media, because this is a film that I would unabashedly recommend to nearly anyone. In fact, anyone. I'll say that straight up. Anyone that I would care.
Does this get the 2 thumbs up for anyone?
That I would care to recommend a film for.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, not some person I hate.
It's
just, it hits every mark for people that would like action or comedy or drama. Like, it's all there. Yeah. And the characters are great. So that's my unabashed sort of just pitch for it, is you can totally go and enjoy this from any walk of life.
And the other thing is that in the theater, I think people were genuinely having a good time, even in America. In New Zealand, it's like preaching to the choir.
But it's just interesting because I feel like this film can totally, like last week's film Swiss Army Man, that's a specific type of person I would recommend the film to. This is like just
universal.
Yeah, it really is. So, guys, this has been the only podcast about Hunt for the Wilderpeople, which is what Ricky names them, by the way. That's why it's called that, because they have a thing about wildebeests, and so he calls them the Wilderpeople, and people are like, huh? Shahir, where can folks find you when you're not exploring the New Zealand bush?
Hashtag not a porno. You can find me at www.shahirdaud.com. That's SHAHIRDAUD. You can reach out on my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff is there. You can reach out to us at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com.
That is right. Please do.
Please do. We love hearing from you. We have a backlog of film recommendations that people want us to check out. I think we got 4 or 5 films there right now.
Right.
Which we will get to whenever we can.
I know.
If we have missed, we've jumped over a couple because some were harder to do. There's one film in particular we both looked at and were like, okay, we will do this, but it's going to take us a little bit of time.
But you won't like it.
And that film...
Don't say it. Don't say the name. Leave it. We will get to it.
Spoiler alert, it was nominated for an Oscar, and I don't think either of us are fans.
Okay, so yes. And you can find me when I'm not shitting on requests at Matthew Kroll, MatthewKrol.com. Also Skeletor, the number 4, PREZ on Instagram and Pokemon Go, by the way.
Oh my God, are you doing that?
Oh yeah.
This weekend.
Dude, I got a Jigglypuff today, man. I'm fucking psyched. And also Emperor MSK on Twitter. Also, I handle the Facebook stuff for the only podcast about movies. I think something else I want to try too, and will come up in the coming weeks, is put up some polls for films that, like upcoming new films that people would like us to see. Not only giving us requests on all those forums, and the iTunes reviews as well obviously help. Please keep those coming. But just maybe like 4 films on there that could be like, what do you want us to do next week, and see how it goes.
On a slightly different note, before we go out, I want to say one thing. It's kind of like a memorandum from the only podcast about movies.
Okay.
I haven't told Matt about this, but
Terror.
What happened this week as part of my job is I got to meet and do a long interview with the director of a film that we've reviewed on this site, on our podcast.
Which one?
Green Room. So I got to meet Jeremy Saulnier.
That's awesome.
And he was absolutely lovely. Really, really fantastic guy. We were talking about something else, so unrelated to Green Room. But I went back and listened to our review of Green Room.
Sure.
And obviously it's that awkward moment where suddenly you've said negative things about someone's film and then you meet them. Now, I'm not saying we should ever retract anything we say, but but one thing I kind of want to point out, and I think it should be a good reminder for you and I as well, is that anything we say on this podcast, we will happily say to a director or a person if we meet them, if they're willing to come on. And I hope that one of the things is that we're honest about our opinions. So we don't, if someone comes on the show and we don't like a certain thing about their film, we would say that to them. But again, prefacing all of that, I think the thing that I was kind of reminded of when you finally meet someone whose film you've been talking and thinking about for a while,
right,
is that without doubt, you and I both love films and we love filmmakers. And anyone who makes a film has our utmost respect, even if we don't like that movie.
Oh, 100%.
You know,
because at the end of the day, and I believe this entirely, they're making movies. We're talking about the shit they make.
Exactly.
Like, there is a tier system, and we are lower.
Oh, much far lower.
So, I mean, that's almost half the reason why I do feel comfortable enough to give my honest opinion.
Yeah, and I want us to continue to do that. There's no way. But it was just that, and I was like...
And they're people.
Yeah, they're people, and I was like, listen, and then I went back and listened to the review, and I was like, would I say this to this person directly? And I think, yes, I would, and yes, we should, and that's what we're about. And we do it because we love the fact that these people make films that we get to watch and talk about.
Yeah.
And that's part
They're
of
doing the dream we like doing. Like,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
just, yeah.
So we love movies. We love talking about movies. We love watching movies. So please tell us movies to watch because we have no fucking idea.
And we also love being the only podcast about them. And we love you guys for listening. Give me a traditional New Zealand goodbye.
It's not kia ora. See, I'm terrible. It's
no personal stake in this movie. The worst New Zealand person I know.
Oh, yeah, I am. I am the worst New Zealand. Fuck.
Bye.
Any New Zealander listening.
Goodbye. Goodbye.